She just wanted to disappear for a few minutes, from the shame, the memories, from a past that insisted on chasing her. In a desperate impulse, she got into the first car she saw. What she didn't know was that the vehicle belonged to a man used to giving orders, not receiving them. Now, sitting in the back seat of a world that doesn't belong to her, she will have to decide: run away again, or accept the unexpected invitation that could change everything. Because some doors, once opened, don't close so easily. And sometimes, the right path begins precisely with a mistake. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Cassie Mason watched her reflection in her parents' bathroom mirror. Deep dark circles revealed sleepless nights spent thinking about how her life had derailed so completely. Just 6 months ago, she had a stable job as a journalist at the local newspaper, a fiancé who supposedly loved her, a cozy apartment, and an old but functional car. Now, at 28, she was back in her teenage bedroom, with faded posters on the walls, and a dresser where her father religiously left some money before heading to work. "Cassie, breakfast is on the table!" Her mother's cheerful voice echoed down the hallway. She trudged downstairs, finding the kitchen table carefully set. Her mother, Diana, 58, with the first silver strands appearing in her brown hair, smiled as she placed a pancake on the plate. "I put banana and honey, just the way you liked when you were a child," said Diana, with eyes overflowing with affection. Cassie forced a smile. "Thanks, Mum." "Your father left some money on your dresser in case you need to buy something for yourself," Diana informed, as if she was speaking to a teenager who needed money for snacks and not to an adult woman. "Mum, Cassie sighed, letting the sentence trail off. How could she explain how humiliating it was to depend on her parents again? How to say that every bill on the dresser was a reminder of her failure? Her mother squeezed her shoulder. "It will get better, dear. Everything happens for a reason." Cassie nodded mechanically. It was the mantra she had heard ever since her life began falling apart, when Robert ended their 3-year engagement with a text message, when she was laid off due to budget cuts at the newspaper, when her car was stolen from the supermarket parking lot, when the landlord asked for the apartment back without notice. After breakfast, Cassie checked her cell phone, which only worked with Wi-Fi since she could no longer afford the plan. A message from her friend Lauren flashed on the screen. "Can you come over to my house today? I have a proposal to make to you." Lauren was the kind of friend who seemed to have been born with a manual on how to navigate adult life. At 30, she had her own apartment, a stable career as a veterinarian, and an annoying talent for finding solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable. Cassie loved and envied her friend in equal parts. "I'm having trouble keeping up with all the clients," Lauren explained as she poured tea in the small kitchen of her apartment. Her dark hair was tied up in a messy bun, and she was still wearing her work coat. "I started offering dog walking services a year ago just to supplement my income, but it took off. Now I have a waiting list." "And what's that got to do with me?" Cassie asked, blowing on the hot tea. "I want to hire you as a dog walker." Lauren smiled, her dark brown eyes shining with anticipation. "Weekly pay, flexible hours, and you can start tomorrow." Cassie frowned. "Dog walker? Lauren, I'm a journalist." "You were a journalist," Lauren corrected gently. "Now you've been unemployed for almost 6 months, and this is a legitimate job that pays real bills." "And there are people who pay me to walk their dogs?" she asked, incredulous. Lauren laughed. "Yes, Cass. Busy people with full-time jobs, elderly people who can't walk long distances, homeowners who work from home and need a few hours of silence. It's a necessary service, believe me." Cassie contemplated her cup. It wasn't what she had dreamed of, but the alternative was continuing to wake up to money notes left by her father on the dresser and banana pancakes. "All right," she sighed. "When do I start?" The first few days as a dog walker were a cultural shock. She swapped heels for comfortable sneakers, blazers for t-shirts and hoodies, and interviews with local politicians for one-sided conversations with enthusiastic Labradors. Surprisingly, she began to enjoy it. The fresh air, the daily exercise, and the sincere companionship of the dogs were a balm for her wounded self-esteem. There were no performance reviews, office politics, or ex-fiancés to avoid. Just tree-lined trails, sunny parks, and the unconditional joy of her canine companions. After a few weeks, Cassie began carrying a small notebook during her walks. While the dogs sniffed bushes or chased after squirrels, she scribbled ideas for her own business. A dog daycare. A place where the animals could socialize, play, and receive care while their owners were at work. She sketched floor plans, calculated costs, and researched regulations. At night, when her parents organized family game nights or 80s movie marathons, she would retreat to her room to refine her business plan. "Maybe one day," she murmured, closing the notebook full of dreams that seemed unattainable without startup capital. On a particularly chaotic Wednesday, Cassie was walking with two golden Labradors, Max and Bella, when they spotted a squirrel. Before she could react, the dogs bolted, knocking her into a mud puddle formed by the previous night's rain. "Max! Bella! No!" she shouted, holding the leashes tightly as mud soaked her shirt and pants. The squirrel escaped up a tree trunk, and the Labradors finally calmed down, looking at her with expressions that almost seemed apologetic. Cassie looked at herself, covered in mud and fur. Great, just perfect. After returning Max and Bella to their owners, who kindly pretended not to notice her state, Cassie checked the time. She had one last client for the day, a beagle whose owner had asked to meet her downtown near his office, and he would then take her to his house where the dog was. The downtown area was bustling when she arrived. Executives in expensive suits rushed to meetings, luxury cars stopped briefly to drop off passengers, and tourists took pictures of the historic buildings. Cassie, in her muddy and dishevelled state, felt completely out of place. It was then that she saw him. Robert, her ex-fiancé, walking down the sidewalk with an elegant woman on his arm. She wore an impeccable navy blue dress, high heels, and had the kind of hair that looked like it had come straight out of a shampoo commercial, the complete antithesis of Cassie at that moment. Panic overtook her. She couldn't let Robert see her like this, soaked in mud, covered in dog fur, working as a dog walker after years of building a journalism career. Her pride couldn't bear it. The next client had said they would be in a black sedan. Cassie spotted a black car parked at the curb a few meters ahead. Without thinking twice, she hurried and opened the back door, sliding into the luxurious interior. "Phew, that was close," she murmured, settling into the soft leather seat. It was then that she noticed the confused look of the man sitting next to her. The man appeared to be about 35 years old, wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than all of Cassie's belongings combined, and he watched her with slightly arched eyebrows. In the driver's seat, an older man looked at her through the rearview mirror. "Are you the journalist?" asked the man in the suit, with a deep and slightly intrigued voice. Cassie blinked, confused. How did he know about her former profession? "Yes, I am a journalist," she responded automatically, assuming this client had been referred by someone who knew about her past. The man nodded, apparently satisfied. "Now that you're here, let's go to my house. I don't want to waste time. You can start asking your questions. Where is your notepad or your recorder?" Cassie tried to process the situation. It was common for her to talk to the dog owners about the animals' preferences, so she continued with the conversation. "I don't need to take notes, I have a good memory," she replied, trying to sound professional. "What is your dog's name?" The man frowned. "My dog? Well, his name is Toby," he said hesitantly. "What does Toby like to do? Does he have a favourite toy?" she continued. "Yes, he has a rubber bone that he takes everywhere," replied the man, clearly confused by the direction of the conversation. After a pause, he added, "Don't you want to know about my company and the $1 million merger deal I just closed?" "I usually don't ask about personal or professional life," Cassie explained, equally confused. "My interest is really about the dog." Then, seeing an opportunity, she decided to take a risk. But since you mentioned having a company and you seem very successful, I'm thinking about starting a business, a dog daycare. Do you think it's a good idea? The man seemed intrigued by the change of subject, his blue-grey eyes studying her with renewed interest. Tell me more about your project, he asked. During the rest of the journey, Cassie spoke enthusiastically about her business idea, describing the services she would offer, the growing demand, and how she planned to differentiate herself from the competition. The man listened attentively, asking insightful questions about profit margins, scalability, and barriers to entry in the market. When the car finally stopped in front of an imposing mansion, Cassie got out already looking for the animal she would walk that afternoon. Well, that was the most unusual interview I've ever given in my entire life, commented the man as they both exited the vehicle. Interview? What are you talking about? Asked Cassie, comprehension beginning to dawn. Are you not the journalist who came to interview me? Yes, I am, or rather I was. But now I work walking dogs, she explained, feeling her face burn with embarrassment. There was a moment of silence, and then the man began to laugh. It wasn't a mocking laugh, but genuinely amused. I think you got into the wrong car, and I presume the journalist who was supposed to interview me is probably downtown thinking I'm not going to show up. Cassie couldn't help but smile. I suppose you're not the client who hired me to walk your dog then. I am Andrew Boscoli, he introduced himself, extending his hand. CEO of Boscoli Enterprises, and you got into my car thinking I was someone else. Cassie Mason, she returned the handshake, noticing the comforting warmth of his palm. Former journalist, current dog walker, and apparently accidental CEO kidnapper. They both burst into laughter, the absurdity of the situation finally becoming fully apparent. My driver will take you back, Andrev offered. Maybe he'll find the real journalist, and perhaps you'll find your client. Cassie nodded, grateful. As they said goodbye, their eyes met for a moment longer than necessary, and something indefinable passed between them. 2 days later, while feeding a client's French bulldog, Cassie's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Cassie Mason? This is Andrev Boscoli. Her heart leaped inexplicably. Mr. Boscoli, how did you get my number? You gave me your card before leaving, remember? Cassie Mason customized dog walks, he quoted with a smile in his voice. Oh, right. She had started handing out simple cards that Lauren had helped print. I've been thinking a lot about your dog daycare project, he continued. It's a solid idea with real market potential. I'd like to discuss it further. How about dinner? And so, on a Friday night, Cassie found herself in the most elegant restaurant in the city, wearing the only formal dress she hadn't sold during her financial crisis. Andrev was waiting at a discreet table, looking even more impressive under the restaurant's soft lighting. You look beautiful, he commented, standing up to pull out her chair. Thank you. No mud or dog hair today, she joked nervously. During dinner, Andrev revealed that, in addition to running a business empire, he was an animal lover who had grown up on a farm. What brings me to the reason for this meeting, he said after dessert, is that I would like to invest in your dog daycare. In fact, I would like to be your partner in this venture. Cassie almost choked on her ice cream. Partner? You barely know me. Why would you do that? First, your idea is excellent and fills a gap in the market. Second, few entrepreneurs have the courage to get into a luxury car covered in mud and talk about their dreams, he smiled. It shows passion and determination, two qualities I admire. And third, she teased, noticing the sparkle in his eyes. Third, I would like to get to know you better, Cassie Mason, not just as a partner. 2 months later, Canine Adventures opened its doors. The space, once an abandoned warehouse, had been transformed into a paradise for dogs, with indoor and outdoor play areas, napping spots, and even a small pool for hot days. Cassie proudly watched the first customers arrive, while Andrev welcomed the local press, including her former newspaper, which was now interviewing her as a successful businesswoman. How did the partnership between you two come about? Asked a journalist. Andrev and Cassie exchanged a knowing glance. Let's say our paths crossed in an unexpected way, replied Andrev, discreetly holding Cassie's hand. That night, after the opening party, they walked together through the quiet space, hearing only the soft snores of some dogs that stayed overnight. Do you remember what I said the first time we met? Andrev asked, pulling her close. Now that you've gotten into my car, you'll have to come with me. For an unexpected adventure, she finished, smiling against his lips. Cassie didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Getting into the wrong car had finally put her life on the right track. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.